me learning Go. I need to get over here and make sure that everything is going well. Restream, picking it up, everybody. Everybody good? Twitch stream. Are we live? Is this what everybody does in the first few minutes of their stream? Okay, I can't really see it on Twitch. This is Restream here? No, that's Twitch. Restream. I need to edit the title. It's, what is today? 20th. Well, officially. Because I decided I'm going to stream at 1:30 in the morning. So what I'm doing here is I just asked AI, look through this generic. It's basically the simplest Go API or Go Lambda endpoint you can make. So I'm doing this so I can learn Go and so that I can learn OpenTofu and deployment to AWS. Because I know about this much about all of that stuff. So I just want to kind of get better at all three of those. And I'm using the OpenTofu stuff at work right now, so the more I can do to learn it, the better. So I just said, hey man, walk me through it. Like when I run tofu plan and tofu apply, what's actually happening? So it says tofu plan, it reads the main TF, and it builds a dependency graph of all the things that it needs to build and how they're related to each other, right? Okay, makes sense. And then asks AWS, hey, what does the current state look like? Okay. And it compares that reality against your TF files and outputs a plan like Terraform data.build will be created. Okay, cool. Hopefully there's no secrets in this, but it doesn't make any difference because anything I got in here is going to be destroyed as soon as it's created, because I'm going to create it, take a look at it, and then destroy it. So that's the whole point of this. Nothing actually happens. This is dry run. That's what I kind of expected. You can output to a file. Like I've heard that you can output the plan to a file, and you can pass it to the tofu apply and execute exactly that plan with no surprises, which I'm assuming is what most people probably do, because DevOps is really not the place where you want surprises. So then the tofu apply. Here's where the real deal happens. Okay, so we're looking at our Terraform file, and this is our build. Terraform data build happens first. I'm assuming because it's first in the file, I don't know if it's executing from top down, or if it starts at the top, and then if it needs, like if this resource calls another resource, or it jumps around, or what. So let's see. All right. It runs the local exec provisioner on your machine, yes, and it builds the program. But only if main.go changes, that's the triggers replace. This is when triggers, I guess triggers replace happens if something in the main.go changes. Then the provisioner, a local exec actually execs it, because it's moving on to the next thing. Local exec provisioner on your machine. Cross-compiling the Go binary. Okay. So this is the thing that's doing but triggers replace isn't being passed into anything, so is triggers replace something I need to just remember is there? Triggers replace. Okay. I'm assuming, as I don't see anything else in the required providers, and this is all in one file, so there are no other files here. They're just the one main TF file. Okay, so this is the compile step. We're gonna change directories into that path and the source. I'm assuming that's the Go compiler. Oh, the Go OS is Linux. Go architecture, ARM64. CGO enabled. I don't know what CGO is. Bootstrapping the commands. Hello. That's this guy. Because that's where the main.go is. Okay. That makes sense. And then zip it into this path where we are. Function.zip bootstrap and remove bootstrap. I gotcha. So it compiles it into an output called bootstrap, then zips that into a file called function.zip, and then removes that compiled binary that it just created. Okay, makes sense. The fact that it doesn't pass anything into this, I'm assuming that just says triggers replace is reading this file and saying if there's a change here, then that runs a triggers replace function, or I mean it looks like a variable, right? Triggers replace equals this file. Okay. Next, it runs, okay. Now, does it run it just because it's next in line? I'm assuming. Picks up that zip and hashes it. Oh, I gotcha. This can't run until this runs. So even if you tried to run this, it would kick back to run this to make sure that that zip file is going to be there. Okay, that's cool. This is good. This is helping me build a mental model of what's going on when you run a Terraform apply. Okay. Then stuff happens. This is disgraceful because I used to work for Okta. The fact that I'm not more well versed in how AWS's IAM stuff works. Shameful. Okay, so. Oh yeah, to make sure you're getting audio. Looks like it. Okay. Now, role M creates the execution role. Go Lambda exec. Okay, so that's a role that you're going to use to say only people in this role can execute this Lambda. So oh, this is just data, so this isn't going to run, only the resources is going to run. Okay, so I guess resources are like functions. I have questions. And come on, pen. Data versus pen dying on me? Hell, man. I can't remember the last time I killed a pen. It probably just dried up from non-use. So the data versus resources are these functions. These like kind of like very, I don't know. Okay, so here's the Lambda assume. This is IAM policy document. So that's some data. Does it address the data at all? Okay, so we need to ask about data anyway, because it doesn't address what that is. Oh, data. Archive file Lambda. No, that's that guy. Picks up that zip and hashes it. The hash becomes the source code hash that tells AWS, did the code actually change? Okay. Lambda creates the execution role. So yeah, like how does it know to jump down to this resource? Just because this is data? Because it went into that, right? I don't know if that's, doesn't seem like a function to me or anything, but again, I'm thinking like a programmer, and this is obviously meant to be like configuration files. So creates the execution role, Go Lambda exec, assume role policy, the data, this policy document. So it is, it's like saying data equals this policy document. And in this resource, the role policy is this document. Okay. Policy attachment attaches the basic CloudWatch logs policy. Attaches the basic CloudWatch. How do you know that from reading that? Policy, service role, AWS. I mean, this is basically, from what I'm seeing, this is attaching it to this role. Attaching this role to the execution of it, I guess. This says it attaches the basic CloudWatch logs policy. Like, is this just an ARN you're supposed to know? AWS IAM role lambda dot name. Should we get that? And the policy ARN. Basic execution role. I don't know if this is going to follow. I don't think so. Nope. But I want to look up real quick if that seems to be a thing that's built into Tofu or AWS or is an AWS managed policy. You can attach an AWS Lambda execution role. Actually, let's do that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but this guy, properties, open selector, Windows, this guy. Okay. Actually, I just leave it open, that way I can go back in just a second. So, it's a managed policy. You can attach, actually, there we go. Good enough. You can attach AWS Lambda execution role to user groups and roles. This just says it can execute lambdas. Lambda basic execution role. Okay. So no special shit in there at all. Policy definition of fault is the version that defines the. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this guy is just saying that Lambda named Go Lambda exec now has basic AWS Lambda execution role. This guy has the basic execution access to this guy. I'm assuming is what we're looking at. So it's less about jumping around like a program and more about doing these steps, and these steps are kind of interdependent. So it looks like it might jump down from step to step and recognize that it has already executed some steps and not others. I don't know. AWS IAM role, that's what we were just looking at, right? Now the Lambda provided AL 2023 Go's custom runtime. The binary must be named Bootstrap. ARM64 Gravitron better price performance. Okay, so it's figuring out what the Lambda's going to run on, the machine that it's going to be running on, I guess. So this is the Hello Lambda. The handler is called Bootstrap because that's what we called it up here when we zipped it. Tags now. So it's building a tag on commands hello that says this is called Bootstrap, so that this can then run it. Go Lambda hello. How does it know that that's what this is called? Or am I just setting it that? I think I'm just setting that. Same as setting name up here. This is setting a function named Go Lambda hello. Role. This is Lambda. It is a Lambda. Oh, that's the role up here. .lambda.arn. So whatever ARN is created from this role. So this creates the AWS role. And returns an ARN. This executes that, and then this attaches the two, and this is the runtime that it's going to sit on. Data archive file, Lambda output path. Is there a data block in here somewhere that has that? Archive file. Or is that something else that's just built in and I just need to know? Architecture, ARM64. 28 megabytes of memory. This comes out of this build. Source file and output path. Output path. And is that other one? Let me stop doing my fucking mouse. Start using my output path. We want to a keyword. Slice. Paste. No. I can't do that. Okay. Yes, so there's the output path. That makes sense. That's the only one. So where is that coming from? I don't know if that's just something that's automatically comes from compiling that. And there's no other variables that I know of. So, okay. Creates the function. That's where we were at. Right. Oh, that's the gateway. There's where we were at. That's that guy, step 4. Then step 5 is creates a HTTP API, then the stage integration and route. All wired to the lambdas invoke ARN. HTTP API. Is that a gateway called stage because that's just what it decided to call it because I didn't say anything? Or is stage like a regular thing? Integration and route. A modern, cheaper API gateway. Any hello means HTTP method. Okay, so it's just doing a cop out and not doing an actual like AWS API gateway full thing. AWS proxy. So any ping to it. And just pings hello. What's called ID here, but that doesn't get set anywhere. Or do I just know that creating an API gateway there drops out an ID? Okay. So I'm not practicing my typing because it's just too late and I'm too tired. There's trigger replaces tofu thing is just built in and I should know about it. Or did we build that somehow? That's one. Two. How was the execution? Yeah, sometimes I go back and correct stuff that I already typed correctly once. Top down. Start at the top and bounce around. Or start at the top and then bounce around until you run out of things to bounce to, and then just do the next thing that you haven't executed yet? Or I don't. Yeah, I'm not understanding. And resources versus data. Those are my three questions. Built-in OpenTofu concept, not something custom. It's a meta argument you can put on a resource. In this case, every time main.go's contents change, the file function returns a different string, which means the Terraform data build and sent hence the hash. Okay. Which just means that, oh yeah, where's the hash? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's get back to reading the other. Not top down. OpenTofu builds a dependency graph from all the references between resources, then executes leaves first. Resources that depend on nothing run first. Okay, the order is determined by the depends on directives and implicit references. Oh, which makes putting together a mental model a little bit more difficult. But I'm getting it. Okay. So even though AWS underscore lambda underscore function dot hello appears before, yeah, in the file, the route depends on the, oh yeah, that's fine. I get it. It's not top down. It's jumping around, but based on reading the whole file first and figuring out what the dependency graph is. You can see this yourself, a tofu graph. Oh, nice. Nice. See, that's something you don't get when you're just Googling around on the internet to try and learn something. Data versus resource. Close to your analogy, but slightly different. Resource. I want OpenTofu to create and manage this thing. Okay. Hey, okay. So resource is create a resource. Data is I want to read something that already exists. It doesn't create anything. It queries AWS or a file or anything. Okay. It puts the result into variables you can reference inside of the resources. In this file, data archive lambda reads the zip file, computes its hash. No AWS resource is created by the block itself. Wait a minute. So this reads its hash. So no, this builds into a zip file. I was thinking it was reading this guy's hash. Oh, this reads the file. Reads the zip file that this guy created. Okay. Path module function.zip, because that's what we called it. The output path. And this just reads the hash. But what is it? Oh, this is just the files. It's just data. Okay. Computes its hash of this block itself. Data image. Okay. Lambda assume builds that's this guy. Builds a JSON statement, which is some variables we can with some data that we can use down here. Data, AWS, Lambda assume, JSON. That's the policy document. Okay, so it does create something in the background that you just need to know that when it creates a resource that it gets an ID as well. And it is the ARN. Okay. The problem is I gotta go and verify all this later. It's probably right. I mean, AI is pretty good at this type of stuff. But OpenTofu generates a .name attribute too, but ID is... Okay. So the ID is always created, which is why this has an ID, has a name, because it's created by name, but I'm assuming this IAM role has an ID as well, and that is the ARN, I guess. Okay. not a built byproduct. It's an attribute of the data.archive file resource itself. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So this is running the archive file data source reads a file and computes several properties about it. Okay. And there was one more question, wasn't there? So the first part of the name is a known OpenTofu thing, right? Okay, which makes sense because it's going to see a resource and it's AWS IAM role. It's going to tell OpenTofu, okay, we're going to need to create the, what do they call it, cloud formation code or whatever it is, or probably more likely SAM code or CDK code or whatever to actually create those resources. AWS IAM role is a resource that we want to create. An archive file is something that it knows how to do. So archive file is going to read this function file that we just created. And the output path that's good to know too. Okay. Well, I think I understand all of this then. And I think what I'm going to do is, first thing in the morning before I go to work, it's 2 o'clock in the morning here, I'll get up a little early and go through this again after I've had some sleep. I'll go through this again, see if it makes sense still, and if anything else clicks. But yeah, I think that's it for me tonight. So I know there's nobody watching, but if there is, really seek help. Ask a friend something, because this ain't this ain't normal. Watching people do this stuff. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm not normal, but who knows?